Hello everybody, my name is Sabre Gaming and welcome to the second video on my YouTube channel. Now, last time I did a tier list of the power rankings of the My Hero Academia Class 1A students, and today I'm going into my opinion of specifically the tier list of the Apex Legends. Now, we are going to be using everything up until Season 6, so every current legend applies, every buff that's applied. This video is being made, let me check the date of September 11th, 2020. 2020, that's pretty funny. But, yeah. So, this video, my own opinion, this is completely and totally my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's great. But this is how I feel. If you disagree, leave it in the comments. Go ahead. Give me proof as to why you think differently. But again, this is just my wholehearted opinion. But now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's begin. So, again, the way that this works is I just move a character into the tier that I think they are. Everything that's on, like, it goes from left to right. So the lowest tier will be at the bottom left, but the best character is going to be at the top right. So, again, that's how it's going to work. It's a little bit different from last time because instead of doing tiers, or instead of doing rankings like last time, like based on numbers and stuff, this is specifically based on tiers and it's a ranking. So let's get started. So at the very bottom of the worst legend in Apex Legends is by far Loba. Now, Loba, this is the only legend that I haven't unlocked. I know a bit about her, but at the end of the day, there's probably some stuff that I might mess up. So if I mess something up, please let me know in the comments. But from what I know, Loba is the worst legend in the game. Her passive ability is just super self-serving, super greedy. She can basically see gold and purple tier loot through walls and up for a certain range, which in my opinion is BS. I think that's a really bad passive. Not only does it not benefit your team in any way, it barely benefits you at all. I mean, depending on like where you're at in the game, and I mean, like seriously, there's so much more that they could have done. Secondly, her tactical, her jump drive. Her jump drive is atrocious. It's incredibly slow. It barely reaches, or sorry, it has a really good range, but it is so incredibly slow and it's so obvious. Not to mention the recharge time for her tactical is really really long, and it shouldn't be. There's no reason why it should be as long as it is. I feel like Apex should at least shorten the time on that to make it a better tactical, but it's so flashy and it goes so far and it's so easily counterable. I have killed more Lobas in my time playing Apex Legends while they were jump driving than I have just in regular battles. Because they throw the jump drive in one, you automatically know where they're located and where they're going. So those are two things you automatically know. Two, you know that they're currently vulnerable because they just did the jump drive and they're currently going through the animation and stuff like that. So you know that you can just get a couple shots off on them. And if you're a fast legend like Octane or even Pathfinder, if you have your grapple or, you know, someone of that sort, you can even just rush them. Rush exactly where they're teleporting and just take them out. And her ultimate is really bad. Don't get me wrong, Black Market Boutique has done some good in the past. It's definitely benefited me in the past, but it's like it has no combat like advantage. Whereas other legends, they have things that can like really help their teams or create space or deal a lot of damage. Loba's just, it's not good at that, and it's not even really good at what it does. It takes so long to select what you're taking from the actual like Black Market Boutique that you could probably just go off and find it on your own. The way I think that they should fix Black Market Boutique is I think they should allow teammates to take more than 2 pieces of loot. Maybe take four. 4 pieces of loot sounds fair, and I feel like the Black Market Boutique should be able to pick up teammates' banners if they've been downed. I feel like that would be really beneficial. I think that would be really unique. But Loba makes it at the very bottom because when it comes to actual fighting, her passive, tactical, and ultimate are absolute shit. So it completely relies on skill alone. And yeah, her abilities barely even help her in a battle, if at all. And she's hardly an asset to her team. Her ult is the only thing that really allows her to benefit her team in any capacity. So yeah, that's why Loba makes it at the very bottom. And for the last D tier, for the top of D tier, I'm going to be saying it's Rampart. Now, don't get me wrong. Rampart is an incredible legend. I think that she's really good and she has a lot of potential, especially in like ranked games. But here's my problem. A lot of her abilities, well, first off, her passive ability, it's better than Loba's easily, but it's still self-serving. Her passive ability grants her larger magazines for LMGs. It grants a faster cooldown for the L Star and a larger magazine for her ultimate, which is her turret. But it's self-serving. Her tactical, on the other hand, is something that like it can be easily countered if it's in the open, and if it's in an enclosed space, it needs to be set up just right. And even then, grenades are a perfect counter to her tactical. Not to mention, but her tactical serves both her and it has the potential to serve her opponent as well if they get behind the wall, which is kind of a problem. But if you're out in the open, then almost every legend in the game can counter it in some capacity. Even if you create a wall of shield and set up a turret, there are ways that you can get inside that little wall. Loba can just throw her jump drive into the center of that area if she has good enough aim. That's one thing. Bangalore can smoke her way over to the area, and if she has her ultimate, she could just throw her airstrike over, and you're done for there. Bloodhound doesn't really have a good counter to the shield and stuff, but Caustic can throw Nox gas if he has it available. He could, if he manages to get close enough somehow, even though he's a very chunky boy, he could throw his Nox traps. Crypto can use the EMP. Gibraltar again, airstrike, or he could just shield. Lifeline doesn't really have a way of getting in there. Mirage can, if the Mirage player is good enough, can just use their ult and use their tactical and then just get really close. But Mirage most likely probably wouldn't be able to get close. Octane can just run or use jump pad to get up in the air and get to a place where the turret can't reach them, or just go fast enough that the turret can't track if the person's not that good at aiming. Pathfinder could set up a zip line to go directly onto or into the little enclosement or past it, and even then, Pathfinder could, slide, use his grapple to avoid the bullets, etc., etc. Revenant can throw his, I can't think of his tactical's name, but he could throw his tactical into the center of it, limiting all abilities, doing 10 damage. He could even do it again a second time to get 20 damage if they have it left already. Watson can't really do anything, but Wraith can teleport, or not teleport, she can phase over to where they are, get inside, and attack them. And at that point, Rampart out in the open is very vulnerable, but when she's enclosed, that's her bread and butter. She is a very team-heavy character. Solo, she's pretty good, but she works better with a team. That's why she can set up to 6 of her tacticals, and she can set up 2 of her turrets. Now, the turret is, in and of itself, one of the strongest ults in the game. simply because of how much power it has. It has an incredible zoom. It has really good tracking. What am I trying to say here? Again, aiming really good, and its rate of fire is stupid. It's really really good. And with if you're playing Rampart and you're on the turret, you have an extra large magazine, which is really good. And you can set up to two of these turrets, which again, very team heavy characters. So in a duos match, in a trios match, she works wonders. But again, it's very difficult to get the perfect setup, especially with zones that are constantly changing, and it's very difficult for her to get a proper setup unless it's at the very end of the zone when you know, oh, it's going to be in a building, oh, it's going to be outside, then I can set up my shield in the right place and we can hunker down here. Otherwise, she's kind of just wandering around putting up shields willy-nilly. And those shields, again, can be easily countered. Someone can get around them. Even with the turret, when you hop on that turret, originally people were, when Rampart was announced, people would think, oh shoot, this turret's going to destroy me. But now people see a turret, and if they have the right aim and if they aren't spotted, it's just free sniper food. So Rampart makes it at the very bottom. I think she has a lot of potential. I think there are some things that could probably be fixed, like how much time it takes for her walls to be put up. I think if they increase the speed of the walls being put up, then she could be a much better legend. And I think that maybe if her passive was shared with her teammates, that would also be a great buff. And I think at that point she could easily make B tier. But at this point, that's where Rampart sits among the legends. She sits at an easy top of D tier. Again, that's just my opinion, but anyway, we're going to continue on. With the next legend to make it, or bottom of C tier legend, is going to be Crypto. Now, to everybody who is about to get really mad at me, yes, I understand that he was buff. And before you say anything like, oh, you don't understand how useful Crypto is, I'm a Crypto main. And I can understand that Crypto belongs at C tier. The reason Crypto belongs at C tier is because, well, he's very good at helping his team, but he's also good at not helping his team, and I'll explain why. Originally, Crypto was probably going to be top of D tier, probably stay the same, bottom of C tier, but Crypto recently got buffs. His drone has more health now. His EMP gives him Evo shields. That's really good. And there's a lot of good that's going for Crypto, but honestly, Crypto is kind of a watered down Bloodhound, and if you don't agree, you need to sit in the corner and think about what you've done and come back when you agree, because he's mostly a watered down Bloodhound, but he's way more unique than Bloodhound, and I'll explain why. One, Bloodhound's tactical ability, his tracker, basically it's something that's very temporary, and although it has a good range, it only shows the opponents for a couple seconds. Crypto, with his drone, can track people as long as the drone is looking at them. And if people are really bad at seeing the drone, you can just follow people with that drone and display it. But then again, the problem with that is every single one of Crypto's abilities is based around his drone. His passive is his teammates can see what he sees in his drone. His tactical is the drone itself, and his ultimate is the EMP, which EMP is another incredibly good ultimate. EMP, I think it should be nerfed. And I'm, again, a Crypto main. I don't see why it would slow people down, but I like that it slows people down. I don't see why it kind of blinds them for a second. I understand the 50 shield thing, but I think instead of slowing them down, I think what the EMP should do instead is do 75 damage with the 75 shield damage with the EMP, and it doesn't slow people down. That's just my personal opinion, but yeah. Also, one thing that's really unique about Crypto is the fact that he can actually leave his drone in a certain area and then use that to cover floors or staircases. I have been in so many situations as crypto where I know that there are people in the building and I hear them, but I don't know exactly where. So I just go into my drone and I leave it on the staircase, or I leave it on a certain floor. And then the second they come up, even if they destroy my drone, hey, guess what? I know where they are. But again, one thing I also forgot to mention, crypto also got a nerf in the new season where his EMP actually affects teammates, which I can see why. It's very logical. I don't like it, but I can see why they did it the way they did. So at the end of the day, that's why crypto make it C tier. Again, I love crypto. I think he's a great legend. But I feel like there is a lot more that could be going to him. And team orientated, he's more of a liability than he is an asset, because if people know where the crypto is and he goes into his drone, he is completely vulnerable. And unless you have teammates that will support you while you're searching around and will stay behind while you're searching, you're gonna kind of get messed up, because the second you spot people or the second you exit your drone, oh no, my teammate is halfway across the map, and yeah, that's kind of a problem. But at the end of the day, I like crypto. I think he's a good legend, but I think he does make it C tier. And for the second and for the top of C tier, I'm gonna have to put Octane. Now, again, before anybody says anything, I like Octane. I think he's a great legend, but he is he's Octane is pretty much built for one thing and one thing only, and that's to run into the middle of fights and die. Um, Octane would be very good in one-on-one fights because of his abilities, but when it comes to a team setting, Octane players have very little or sometimes nothing to bring to the table. The tactical only affects Octane, which is completely understandable, because there's no way there's no logical reason as to why it would benefit the other teammates you have as well. His tactical only benefits him, which again is completely natural. But his tactical also gives Octane players an excuse to run away from fights or run into fights instead of helping out. Because I myself have played as Octane a lot, and I have been in multiple situations where I'm in the middle of a fight and I know that I'm not going to win that fight and I'm at low health, but my teammates are also in that fight. So I run away from the fight using my tactical. And I've seen many Octanes leave the middle of a fight using their tactical. And that is a hindrance on the team more than it is an asset, depending on the situation. Because, if it's kind of a last man standing kind of deal, then it might have been smart for that Octane to run away. But in other cases where the fight could have been won if the Octane had stayed, it's a massive liability. But then you come to the jump pad where it's like, well, that can be utilized by your teammates, but is it any good? Well, first off, the jump pad can be destroyed. It can't be destroyed instantaneously, much like other tacticals and ultimates can. But this ult, again, the jump pad can be destroyed. Secondly, the jump pad is, again, more of a liability than it is an asset. Sure, it can reach hard to reach players for certain players, like it might help a Mirage get to a higher place that they couldn't reach before, whereas a Pathfinder or an Octane can reach, or even a Loba can reach that Mirage can't, so the jump pad allows them to get there. But it also leaves you a sitting duck. And again, this is the thing with most Battle Royale games, period. But when you are in the air, you're mostly sitting ducks. You are dominant on the ground. There are very few Battle Royales, if any, that give you advantage while you're in the air, and Apex Legends is one of those. Apex Legends is not a game that's designed for your characters to be flying around in the air. It's very ground-based, and sure, you do have your jump towers, and you do have, again, you have the launch pads, but at the end of the day, the game is mostly focused to people staying on the ground. That's why the movement on the ground is so nice, with the crouching and the standing and the sliding. By the way, sliding mechanic, mwah. It's one of my favorite things about Apex. But continuing on with that, the jump pad leaves you vulnerable in the air. And before it got the buff where, Apex, the other legends could double jump in the air, you would essentially be a sitting duck if you're trying to run away from a fight or if you're trying to run into a fight. All somebody has to do is notice that you're in the air, and if they have good enough aim, they can just pick you off with either sniper rifles, assault rifles, LMGs, or even a pistol if they have good enough aim. But the double jump introduced a way that you could kind of juke out your opponent in the air, and I agree that it was a nice balance. But on the other hand, now it becomes a waiting game of when are they going to use that double jump. And the second they use the double jump, the trajectory can be discovered, and you're like, oh, that's where they're going to go, and then you're gone. So again, and there's only one legend that can operate well like on the jump pads and can prevent themselves from getting hit, and that's Wraith because she can phase. But then again, that would be more of a waste of her phase than her emo phase, or if we're being honest, any 2000 kids emo phase. But again, Octane is a great legend, but he's pretty much built for one thing and one thing only, and that is running into fights and dying, because that's what most Octane players do. They rush into battles and they die, and Octane isn't really good for much else. He isn't good for playing out long games. He isn't a good defensive legend, and he's purely built around offense. So that's why Octane makes it top of C tier. Again, I love the legend, and anybody who plays him, mad respect, but at the end of the day, Octane makes it C tier. Now, we're getting onto B tier, and for the bottom of B tier, we have Mirage. Originally, Mirage was probably going to make it D tier, but with if we were talking about like season 1, season 2 Mirage, then we are talking D tier, possibly even lower than Lova. But well, that's mainly because in the original seasons you didn't have control over the illusions or the mirages, if you want to say that, or the holotech, according to the lore. But you didn't have control over those images, and it was very easy to identify which one was real and which one was fake, because one would be running in a straight line towards a rock and then run into the rock and then just stand there, and then the other one would be running in the other direction. It would be very obvious, and even the ult, well, it did give you invisibility. You can't act while you're doing that invisibility, and that was more just, oh, I'm running away or I'm repositioning, which could have been good, but at the end of the day, it wasn't much. But with the new buffed illusions or holotech or mirages, or whatever we want to call them, and the brand new and the buffed ultimate, it easily boosted him from a D tier to a B tier because it made him way more of an asset than a hindrance. By the way, his passive, he has the second best passive in the game, which is when he picks up his teammates. Both him and his teammates go invisible, which is really good. And although there are the blue glowing lights that like show where he is, I have never once seen a player actually identify those lights, which is really good. But Mirage has that pickup, which is a really good support passive. His tactical has been buffed so that it can mimic his movements, which makes it harder to determine which one is real and which one is fake. And with his ultimate that also mimics him, it makes it even more difficult to identify which one's real and which one's fake. But that can easily be countered because it has been pointed out by a lot of Apex players that the original Mirage, when they're using the ultimate, acts first, and then the mirages act almost like a quarter of a second after. There's a small little space of time between when the original one moves and the mirages move. And if somehow a player is able to pick up on that in the middle of a fight with a mirage, then Mirage is pretty much a sitting duck, which makes him B tier. Again, wonderful team player, wonderful legend. I love the lore behind him. I love his personality. I think he's my favorite, like personality wise, like legend. I just love him so much. But moving on from Mirage, we've got our next and final B tier legend, which is going to be Wattson. that might piss some people off. Watson is a very good legend, and I think that she's really good. Her passive is one of the best passes in the game easily, and that is ultimate accelerants. Charge your ult fully instead of like partially. So all she needs is one ultimate accelerant, and then she can pop proper ultimate, which I'll get into in a second. One thing I forgot to mention about Crypto is the fact that his drone can pick up teammates' banners and it can like respawn them, which is really good. But I think Crypto still makes it C tier. In fact, just for the record, we're gonna put him above Octane because I feel like that one thing makes him even more of a team player. So Octane kind of just falls to the bottom of C tier. But anyway, back to Watson. Her tactical is her electric fences, which in an enclosed environment is her bread and butter. You don't want a better, or there's no better legend to have in an enclosed building when you're like holding it down in a zone than Watson. She can fortify a building almost better than any other legend in the game. There's only one legend that I could probably say. No, I'd easily say she is the best at fortifying a building. One, she blocks off doorways and entrances using her electric fence, and she can create up to I think 3 of these electric fences, but she can create up to I think 6 nodes. So yeah, and while they don't have any like actual defensive like blocking or anything like that, so like using it out in the open is almost useless. But in a building, it blocks off entrances and limits opportunities to get in. For certain buildings, Watson can block off every single entrance and make it impossible to get in. And one of the other really good things about her is that her nodes can't be easily destroyed. Whereas things like Caustic's Nox traps, you shoot once, they go off, and then they get destroyed. Or let's just say Revenant's Death Protection can be shot and can be destroyed. Or even Rampart's shield can be shot, can be destroyed. Crypto's drone, while it does have a small hitbox, can be shot, can be destroyed. Watson has a very small hitbox on her nodes, and that's the base of the nodes themselves. And it's very hard it's not hard to locate the actual nodes because you can obviously see them with your eyes, but it's hard to actually shoot them without being at a disadvantage yourself. And when they're destroyed, it becomes obvious to the team where you're breaking into. Now, let's just take away destroying the nodes as an option. Let's just say that they're indestructible, but they have a timer, something weird like that, whatever. At that point, either she has blocked off every single entrance in the building, or she has limited the entrance to like 1 or 2, which makes it so your team, instead of running around the entire building and covering every entrance and being like, could they be coming from here? Could they be coming from here? Could they be coming from here? Instead, can focus on those 2 specific entrances and say they have to come through these 2 because there's no way that they would go through the electrical fence because they get damaged and then we'd be able to find them, etc., etc. But at that point, you limit where they are, where they can come in, and it makes it so much easier for defense. And then her ultimate. Her ultimate is a generator that slowly charges shields. The reason why she makes it a B tier is because this ultimate does have has a timer, and it's only up for a certain amount of time, which personally I don't agree with. I think that it should be up until it's destroyed or until it's taken down by Watson, much like Rampart's turret. I don't think there should be a timer on it. But again, with the passive working so well with this ultimate, Watson and also Watson can stack ultimate accelerants. So if she has 2 of them, she can one, use her ult naturally after she's generated it over time. Give her partner shield. It gets destroyed, she uses an ultimate accelerant, boom, drops another. Boom, drops another when that one's destroyed. Not only does it save you on using shield cells, and it saves you on picking up other people's shields and losing your own, etc., etc. But it's also really good in a fight, and especially if you are in a place where, or if you place that generator in a place that's really hard for it to get shot at or destroyed, you can just destroy with this thing. And I think it's one of the better ultimates in the game. It's very good. Drawbacks to Watson: she is very slow, which again is kind of just indicative of defensive type legends such as Rampart, Watson, Caustic, Gibraltar. But she's slow. She does have a slightly larger hitbox than some of the other legends. Um, Again, those nodes can be destroyed. The ultimate has a timer. And while the passive does benefit the team in the long run because of her ultimate, it doesn't directly benefit them. But she is an amazing team player. And again, the biggest drawback with Watson is that out in the open, the only thing that really benefits her team is the generator. But even out in the open, that generator can be shot and destroyed. And the time it takes to pop an ultimate accelerant would just leave her open and make her a liability. And those nodes aren't going to help out in the open. So at the end of the day, she is basically limited to buildings and like indoor structures for her to be really good. So that's why Watson makes it the top of B tier. All right. Now we are on to the final 8 legends of the game. These are the best. These are the best 8, and again, everything up to this point has been my opinion. If you disagree with me, go ahead, make your own video about it, or disagree with me in the comments. I don't care. So we are now down to the final 8. Here we go. Give me 1 second. All right, here we go. Bottom of A tier is going to be Bangalore. Now, a lot of people might disagree with me. A lot of people might say she's an S tier. A lot of people might say she's a lower tier. But here's what I think. 1, her passive ability has absolutely no drawbacks, and while it can't be shared with other teammates, her passive is very, very beneficial, especially from getting away from fights, getting into fights, movement. Her passive, basically, whenever she gets shot at or whenever she gets damaged, her speed increases, which is really good, especially for like getting shot in the back or something, which gives you a better chance at getting away. It can help you rush enemies, etc., etc. Her tactical is very good too because it's smoke. Biggest problem with her smokes though is the fact that she can't see through it. In fact, nobody can see through the smoke, which is kind of a problem. And a lot of the ways that I've seen Bangalore players use this smoke is kind of cruddy. I'm not even gonna lie. And it's like, I'm gonna smoke while I res my teammate, which sometimes it works, but also it shows like people know where you are and what you're doing at that point. Secondly, even if you use your smoke, you're mostly using it for 2 reasons. 1, you want to, or actually, there's 3 main ways you can use the smokes. 1, to disorientate your enemies while like they're doing something, so you can rush in and attack. 2, to help you get away, so like you smoke the ground. Or 3, you're resing a teammate. There's not much else you can really use it for. And if you are using it to get away, or if you're using it to like shroud what you're doing, it's pretty obvious. Like all you have to do at that point is just shoot into the smoke. And depending on the landscape, like if it's a flat terrain, you can just shoot parallel to the ground. And then once you get a hit marker, just aim at that one spot and keep shooting. But another part of that is, since you can't see in the smoke, like 6 times out of 10, especially what I've seen both with me and with other Bangalore players, is they tend to leave the smoke and they go to the side, which again is very obvious to a player because, oh, they can't see me, I can't see them, so they're going to move out of the smoke to try to shoot me. And so they're just going to aim to the side, and the second you come out of the smoke, boom, you're shot at, you're dead, etc. But her ult's pretty good. You know what? Actually, Bangalore makes it B tier. I'm changing my mind. Bangalore makes it B tier. There's drawbacks and stuff. Her ultimate is very good. It damages. It does great. The problem is how much time it takes for that ultimate to come in. So first off, the grenade itself is pretty flashy. So if a player sees like you holding the grenade, they automatically know what's going on and they can just leave. 2, if they hear the missiles coming from the air and if they see them land, all they have to do is run out of the area and they're fine. And now I know that that airstrike covers a large area, but for players like Pathfinder, Caustic, even characters like Bloodhound, Revenant, Wraith, Bangalore, other Bangalores, Loba who can jump drive, etc., it is very easy to escape from that ult and to just not get damaged by it. But it does do a lot of damage and it does slow down opponents, which I also like. And it creates a lot of smoke, which could be used for diversion, but mostly when I've played Bangalore in the past, I've used it as more of a spacing mechanism to keep players away from me. But the other part that is more of a drawback to this ult is that it's so obvious. Even players from really far away can see the ultimate dropping from the sky, can even see the explosions that come after. It's not a very it's a very flashy ultimate, and a lot of people can see it happening. So that's why Bangalore makes it B tier. She doesn't make it A tier. I kind of just like went through it in my head, and I was just like, there are too many drawbacks to Bangalore. And while I do like the character, and I think that people who play her are probably really good at playing Bangalore, I just don't think that Bangalore makes it A tier. Next, so again, now we're going to actually get into A tier. Bottom of A tier, Gibraltar. There are some drawbacks to Gibraltar, but there are also a lot of positives. And let me get into them. 1, his passive, the arm shield. While at first the arm shield would probably have dropped Gibraltar to a B tier, he makes it A tier because buffs made it so that he could turn off the arm shield if he wants to better aim, because that arm shield, whether you like it or not, is a really big hindrance to aiming, and you can turn it off now if you want to snipe people, which is really nice. And I really like the fact that they added that to the game, that you can turn off the arm shield. But the arm shield is a massive bonus. Gives you more shield, gives you better defense when you're fighting in close combat, and it again, much like Bangalore's smoke and everything, it can be used while you're in the middle of fighting, and it's a huge benefit while you're actually fighting. It isn't something that you need to set up beforehand. It isn't something that takes a while to set up. It's instantaneous, and it's an instant benefit. Secondly, his tactical, the shield. Really good. And while you and your teammates can't shoot through it, much as the enemy can't shoot through it, while I do find that kind of annoying, I understand and I get it. It's annoying, but it works. Plus, that inside of the shield basically has become your ground, and anybody who steps through that is just gonna get smoked. Not to mention the games that you can play by jumping in and jumping out of the shield, so that you don't get hit, are really nice. It's incredibly durable and can even sustain Bangalore's airstrike. Which, speaking of Bangalore's ult strike or airstrike, we come to Gibraltar's ultimate, which is basically Bangalore's ultimate but faster. Which is why Gibraltar makes it A tier and Bangalore makes it B tier, especially when it comes to ultimates. And that is Gibraltar's ultimate. You throw the grenade, you get missiles, they rain down, and that's it. There isn't missiles that hit the ground and then it takes a while for them to explode and that you can easily avoid. He throws it and then it just drops. And this does limit him to only using his ultimate outside, because obviously his ultimate doesn't work inside, which is one thing that I forgot to mention about Bangalore. Is the fact that her airstrike doesn't work indoors, it only works outdoors. But the drawbacks to Gibraltar, why he doesn't make it S tier, are very small, and it's the fact that he is just one big walking hitbox, and he is incredibly slow, which in some cases can make him a hindrance to a team, and again, one big target to other players. But at the end of the day, Gibraltar is a very good legend, and there are way more benefits than there are drawbacks to his character. I think Gibraltar makes it A tier. Very, very good character, etc., etc. The second character that makes it on A tier is going to be Pathfinder. Pathfinder is a very mobility based character, and while it's kind of sad that his passive is now kind of being shared with the other surveillance based legends, I think that it was very unique while it lasted. And honestly, had he kept that and had the other legends not received that buff, um, or the other surveillance based legends not received that buff, he easily would have made it S tier. But his grapple allows him to reach places that other people can't reach, and it can even like grapple. You can even grapple yourself towards enemies, which I find really beneficial, especially if they're trying to run away, and especially if you're trying to get into melee combat. Which again is a really good plus about Apex Legends as a whole is the melee combat. But to put it simply, and of course, him getting to a place that other people can't. Now you're suddenly wondering, well, what about teamwork? He's not a very team-based oriented character. His ultimate allows the other legends that universally can't make it up to those areas or can't get away. It allows them to get to that area. Not to mention the zip lines are indestructible and they last a really long time, and they have really good range, and they have decent speed. And plus, they can either place you into the middle of fights, help you cross fights, or give you extra movement. What I mean by extra movement is the fact that if you're stuck in a place where there's only one place to go, suddenly a zipline might give you one extra opportunity to move somewhere else to get a better vantage point on somebody, give you an easier route to either get around an enemy, avoid an enemy, or get the jump on an enemy, which I really enjoy. So Pathfinder makes it A tier. I'm sorry I couldn't give a longer explanation for him, but for as a whole, he makes it A tier. Final A tier character is going to be Revenant. Now that's going to piss some people off. I just don't think he makes it S tier, and there's one simple reason. That's because I don't feel like his passive is that good. Now, trust me, I love his passive. I think his passive pretty good, but I don't get why he had to have that passive. Why specifically it was him that had to get that passive. I'm sure another legend in the future could have gotten that passive, but I feel like that's more of a sneak-based passive, and he is not a sneak-based character. Sorry to say, but everything else about Revenant, his tactical is incredible, the way it silences enemy abilities, especially for characters such as Gibraltar, Wraith, Lifeline, even Bloodhound. It completely blinds a Bloodhound and even a Crypto player. Completely destroys the defenses of any Gibraltar, Rampart, or Caustic player, or even a Watson player if they haven't properly set up yet. And it leaves characters like Wraith and Bangalore completely vulnerable, and Octane as well. I mean, Wraith, if you're able to hit a Wraith with his tactical and take away her phasing, her portal, and the voices, that leaves Wraith to be a sitting duck, and while she does, have a smaller hitbox or whatever, it limits her, and the time that it silences the abilities is a great opportunity to attack, etc. And plus, you get two you're able to use two before it needs to recharge, which I think is really good. His ultimate, one of the best ultimates in the game, period. I thoroughly enjoy it. I think it's incredibly unique. It's essentially a respawn point, if you really think about it. I think maybe instead of the passive of, when he crouches, he walks faster, I think instead he should have a passive where when he goes into death protection, he can either use death protection twice, whereas his teammates can only use it once, or when he uses death protection, it doesn't take away some of his shield or some of his health when he goes into it or when he comes out of it, etc., etc. I think that would be a really good passive for Revenant, but his passive makes both ranked matches and both common matches really good, and can set up for some really unique strategies, whereas some rush, some don't. Some stay behind, ready to heal when you teleport back, etc., etc. And sometimes you just like a crypto. If you don't have a crypto on your team, you don't have a Pathfinder. Sorry, not Pathfinder, Bloodhound. You don't know where your enemy is. You could just throw on the death protection, run over, see what they're up to, get shot, teleport back, relay what's happening to your teammates, and then set up a proper strategy. It's a really good ultimate. I just think that the only thing that really needs to be changed about Revenant is that passive, because it's a massive missed opportunity for better passives, um, better things. I feel like he deserves a better passive ability than just being able to move faster when he's crouching. All right, and now finally we are on to the 4 best legends in the game. And now we begin. Now, again, I just want to say this is all based on my opinion. If you don't agree, that's completely fine. Please don't get mad at me. This is just my personal opinion. But, yeah. Anyway, bottom of the S tier. Sorry, there's a phone going on in the background. Bottom of the S tier is going to be Caustic. Caustic is easily bottom of S tier. There's a lot of reasons why he makes it the bottom of S tier. I think that there's, like, besides the obvious that he's slow and that he's a bigger character, there's almost no drawbacks to Caustic, because unlike Watson and Rampart, which almost require close quarters to fight, Caustic is a character that can fight both out in the open and indoors, which I really admire about him. His Nox traps are really good. He can set up to 6, which can make it nearly impossible for any legend to enter a building or even a battlefield if he set up the traps correctly. His Nox grenades give him a throwable that, like he might not need to pick up like a thermite grenade or an arc star or a frag grenade, because he's got the Nox grenade, and the Nox grenade is so good. Not only does it create space between you and your opponent, not only does it have the possibility of shrouding your movement, because it's much like Bangalore, but unlike Bangalore, you can actually see through the gas because that's your passive. And it benefits your teammates because even if they aren't caustics, they can see through the gas too, which I really like. I really like that his passive is shared with his teammates, which makes it really good for combat and everything. Makes it good for fighting. Makes it good for fighting opponents, etc., etc. I'm kind of just muttering here, but his ultimate is very good. He can obviously use it to shroud his own movement, create space, or if it's an enclosed space, throw it into a room and deal massive amounts of damage. It's basically a Nox trap that lasts longer with a bigger AoE and with more range on the throw, which I greatly admire about Caustic. He's a character that I am considering maining just because of how good he is. But moving on from Caustic, we have our top 3 characters. Top 3 characters in Apex Legends. Number 3, Lifeline. Now, some people might get mad at me because they might think Lifeline is kind of annoying, but I think she's amazing. Even back when she didn't have the passive that she has now, she was really good because that passive made it so her heals and her shields took less time than other people's, which was really good for in the middle of a fight. And even when it was paired with gold backpacks that reduced the time for healing and shield, it made healing and shielding in the middle of a battle not a necessity, but it made it it made it very good. It made it possible that you could do that in the middle of a fight, that you could pop a shield battery and have it last 3 to 4 seconds instead of 8 or 9 or however long a shield battery lasts, because I'm dumb and I can't think of it right now. But her passive now is basically she has the best pickup, or she has the best res out of any legend in the game. Her dock creates a shield, which one allows her to move around while her teammate is getting res and getting picked up, which is really good because it doesn't make you a liability. Instead, you can continue the fight while your teammate is being picked up. Two, that shield can turn your down partner from a liability into an asset, into an advantage. Because with that shield, you can hide behind it. And yes, someone can just, drift by it, Tokyo Drift style, and, shoot you and go into the shield and shoot you or whatever. But if you're good enough, you can just create space between you and the opponent and basically make it near impossible for you or your teammate that's been down to get hit. Again, very good passive. Her tactical, again, the dock drone makes it so that carrying syringes and even carrying med packs isn't really needed, especially if your lifeline is smart and doesn't just use the dock drone on themselves. If they're not selfish and they recognize when other people need the dock drone, a lifeline is a necessity when you have when somebody like that is in your party. Then you're pretty much set because they don't care about just themselves, they care about other people. Again, very good tactical, and her ultimate can give you better shields, give you better consumables, and it will even give you attachments for certain weapons, which depending on the weapon you have, i.e. turbocharger, select fire receiver, precision choke back when that was in the game, depending on the hop up that's coming in that carrier, can be a serious advantage later on in the game. Again, very good ultimate, very good tactical, very good passive, all around amazing character. But there are just two. The only reason she doesn't make it at the top is because there are just two characters that are better than her. For the second best legend in Apex Legends, it's gonna be Wraith. Now, there's a reason why she doesn't make it top. And yes, I understand that she has the smallest hitbox in the game, and she's the hardest to hit, and she has incredible movement. I agree that her passive is one of, if not the best passives in the game, period. Those voices that go on your head when someone aims at you, which makes it nearly impossible for you to get hit or to get third party or fifth party or fourth party or whatever the heck is happening on in that situation. Her phase ability makes it even harder for people to hit you, and it can let you reposition, it can let you shield up, etc., etc. And I do understand that they nerfed her phasing so that it takes longer for the phase to come out, and there is a period of vulnerability when you come out of that phasing, which can leave you open. And that's how I've killed a lot of Wraiths, is I've kind of just followed the trail that she leaves when she's phasing, and then I just shoot them when they come out of the phasing because they can't do anything, or before they go into phasing because their character's going through the animation of phasing, etc., etc. But again, incredible movement, really small hitbox. Her passive and tactical are incredible, and that ultimate, oh my gosh, it's perfect for both the player themselves and their teammates. Also, it's really good for setting up traps. I have seen so many clips of Wraiths creating portals over cliff edges into the middle of rampart turrets or gas traps or more. I think that Wraith is an incredible trapping character. I really like Wraith, and I think that she is the second best legend in the game. I would say the only drawback is, again, I'd say the only drawback is just that little period of vulnerability before she goes into phasing and when she comes out of phasing. But even then, depending on where you're actually phasing and if you're being smart about it, you can that might not even be a problem. And she is easily the second best legend in the game. But the number one best legend in the game is Bloodhound. And there are a lot of reasons why Bloodhound is the best. One, his passive ability is by far the best passive ability in the game, which allows for tracking players up to even 30 seconds after they've been to a certain area, which I find really helpful for finding teams and getting into the middle of fights if you're an aggressive player, or if you're playing defensive, can help you stray away from players, and even in some cases can benefit you in letting you know when there's going to be another squad at another place So hey, maybe don't jump into the middle of those two fighting or those two about to fight, etc., etc. His tactical ability is insane. The area of his tactical is so good, and it gives detailed locations as to where they are, and it has a pretty decent cooldown. Um, it has a respectable cooldown. Would I love for it to be shorter? Yes, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be shorter. But I really like the cooldown he has, and his ultimate is insane. Grants some extra speed, shows again his passive is in effect, gives his tactical an insane short cooldown. Sorry, an insanely short cooldown. And every time that he knocks somebody down and eliminates somebody while he's in the Beast of the Hunt mode, it gives Beast of the Hunt 5 extra seconds, which is really good. Beast of the Hunt can be used in so many different ways. 1 for tracking, 2 for escaping, 3 for being offensive. It's again, really good character. There's absolutely nothing that's wrong about Pathfinder. It needs to be fixed about Pathfinder. Um, Going back to his tactical, it has so many different purposes. Tracking people, defensive means, meaning like if you're stuck in a building and you're waiting for people to come, you can find out where they are in the building, etc., etc. Offensive, know exactly where they are so you can throw grenades or get an advantage on them. It's he's such a good legend. He is the best legend in the game. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Bloodhound, period. And this is the official Sabre Gaming tier list for every single Apex legend. Again, if you agree, if you disagree, that's fine. But at the end of the day, this is just my list. This is just how I see it. Feel free to leave a comment for other tier lists that I should do, other rankings that I should do, either anime based or Apex Legend based, or I don't really know. Just leave comments for other tier lists that I should make. Let me know what your favorite part about the video was, etc. How I could improve these videos. Content that you want to see on TikTok, which by the way, TikTok is going to be linked in the description. Instagram is going to be linked in the description. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for hopefully being respectful of my opinions and what I think, and hopefully maybe I even educated some of you, and maybe I even convinced some of you to play Apex Legends. So again, this is Sabre Gaming signing out. Have a wonderful day.